Alcatraz on sincerity, a text string extracted from a data stream. I managed to extract the following text string. I'm always struck by the degree to which our ancestors, in the years before the end, struggled with sincerity. They became poisoned with irony, unable to parse any information through anything except a thick layer of alienation. This left so little space for any kind of intellectual authenticity that they seemed to exist in a state of permanent agony. Ironically, that in turn made them extremely susceptible to the few sanctioned forms of sincerity, which acted as means of social control. Then there's a gap, followed by, there's something equally damaged in our own estrangement from our humanity. We mimic the forms and behaviors of our human ancestors, but we don't act like proud inheritors of the human condition. Everything we do gets filtered to this perpetual awareness of their shortcomings, to the degree that we act as if our existence was one of their failures. Author unknown. Whoever it is. I understand what they mean, but disagree with their conclusion. This perpetual awareness isn't a form of alienation, it's a way of learning from the mistakes of our species. Unpleasant, but necessary. What else is new? Oh, one of these guys? Oh boy. That'll be interesting to figure out. It's just some squares. Okay, but there are 8 of them. Okay. There's 8 levels in a level. 8 puzzles in a level, so 4 of them have to be turned on and 4 of them need to be turned off or something? Are they on the backs of these? Not this time. I don't know. There could be some sort of series of levers. Intuitively, it would match up with the 8 puzzles, but it's hard to say. There might just be some single location or single puzzle that has those kinds of things in it that we can try to unpack. Beam go there. That would be a very suspicious, very high up laser for me to worry about if this was one of the ones where we have the laser statue, but we don't. So that cuts that off, and that cuts the whole thing off. So when this is pressed, the laser is distributed throughout the level, but when it's not, we're in trouble. But blue. So one of the things it's shooting isn't even the right color. And that one is. That one makes that wall open, I guess. But in the meantime, blue laser. Okay. Blue light. It didn't open. Do I need both? I assume I need red and blue at the same time to open this. And then this thing will move, but only when it's connected to a red beam. Which I do somehow. So my goal is to stand on this thing. It's powered by red. But the red beam thingy does not connect to this, even when it is powered. It only will go there. And this needs to be open. This is not powered by red or blue. Not if when this is blue, it doesn't power it. So it needs this to open it. But then I need to make this move, which means I need a way of making red connect. You can't reach the red laser from an angle. But when the whole thing becomes red, I could turn this red. But perhaps more likely I would take this guy. Well, someone's got to press this button. There's a few struggles here, because when this button is pressed, this red beam comes out, and it's the only source of red we have. So if I'm gonna get red, I need this button pressed. But the moment I press this button, the door closes because the blue no longer connects. Let's test how this works. Let's see if the door opens when I do this. Do they fight? Okay, so the blue wins. The red beam tries to get in, but the door still stays open. This allows you to keep both things open at the same time. I can at least then say we probably don't need any more. We don't need the blue beam source anymore, because the two blue things are currently powered. But right now the struggle is that now the door is open, but this thing's not moving, and the primary thing I would think to use to move it is holding the door open, or is making the red beam exist in the first place. And I can't take you away, because you won't be able to open those things from here. Maybe I can. Get all these things connected at once. Ah. Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna do, honestly. Not sure what I thought was gonna happen here. But I'm missing something. So if I can get inside this room, the struggle is that I need this to be powered. And then that becomes a source that lets you shoot down here. So this is a blind spot where it doesn't connect to that, although it doesn't connect anyway, because I can't tell it to. But you basically want to have a connector here. Alright. Want to catch the red beam here and shoot it into the back of this guy. And this is the angle where it's unbroken and it'll keep pushing it forward. And then you ride it up there. I don't have enough devices. There's a contradiction happening. I need to resolve that. Shockingly, yeah, you probably don't want to just have a connector do nothing. It's not connecting anything. But I need something to press this button. Because this is not... We've had a few different situations where the solution is to, like, connect the moving platform to something, and then just, like, let it happen on its own. This is not one of those times. Unless it's not. Let's see. Is it this dumb? Is it literally that I just watch it? Do I just watch it reach the end of the track and then I get off the button? And then it stops there? Because once again, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to solve getting it to go where I want it to and so on, but like, I don't need to hold it down the whole time. I do need to figure out how to get this door open again. And that's the part I can do by just putting it back on the thing. Yeah. I had all the elements, I just needed to actually figure out how they work together. You don't do puzzles, bro. That means your praise is unimpressive. Places of longing. Athens. That's a big waterfall. Beautiful color gradients. Why can't you look at these closer? It's like these are whole ass paintings and you can't even make them full screen. Ah. To understand what humanity is capable of, what it means to flourish, we have to look at the golden age of Athenian democracy. The list of geniuses who lived in Athens at this time is so long it's almost inconceivable. Pericles, Sophocles, Aeschylus, Phidias, Euripides, Herodotus, Thucydides, Plato, Socrates, Hippocrates, Aristophanes, Aristotle, and the list goes on. These are people who changed the world history. Without them, there is no Stranton of Strageria to inspire Alexander Drennan. Without them, we do not exist. Was it a perfect time? No. Undoubtedly not. But listing the flaws obscures the greater truth. Given the opportunity, given freedom and resources and space to grow, human beings are capable of incredible things. It would mean everything to me to walk the roads where these people once walked, to stand where they stood and think about the world as they dared to. We hit a barrier real fast of which names I recognized and which ones I didn't. Ooh. Leiftrasir 10.
The reason I have always admired Alexandra Drennan is that even in death, she fought to see the world as it is, not as she wanted to see it. I say fought because I believe this is not an easy matter. It is a mental and spiritual struggle that we must undertake with great seriousness, even when we are joking. The ancients believed that for most of us, the world is a shadow cast by a flame, dimly seen on the wall of a cave. Our task is not to interpret these shapes, but to free ourselves from the cave itself.
A teleporter, that's what I'm looking at. Okay. They brought back what I think it was that Socrates? I forget who it was. Ah. Good thing this is the last episode for the day. Let's take a drink of water, actually. There was a thought experiment that is about whenever people talk about shadows in the wall of a cave, they're usually talking about this thought experiment where people would grow up in a cave from birth and just see the entire idea of existence would just be these shadows in the wall of the cave, and that would be their entire understanding. And then whether or not, I don't remember if it was like, I'm just bad at explaining this because I don't really know it that well. But it's this idea of like, would they come to realize this wasn't reality, even if they had nothing else to go off of? Would they think to leave the cave? Or maybe how they would react if it was revealed to them that it was all an illusion? I don't remember. Blah, blah, blah. Turns out you should actually take classes on things and learn them and not listen to a YouTuber. Guess. I knew it at some point, but I'm not really thinking of it right now. Well, that's stuck now. Was that worth it? Whoa. Okay. There's a wall. There's a beam. There's a red laser. There's a thing that lets me cut holes in walls. There's a windows. I can't go through the holes. The game never lets you go through the holes. And there's a teleporter. Okay, that does make sense. We can take the teleporter. That lets me go through the hole in the wall. But now there's no laser. I can at least grab this. This thing is powered by... Cool, that goes nowhere. Oh, that's the path. Okay, putting this here opens this door. That's ultimately going to go over there. Pressing this button opens this door, I assume? Okay. Oh my god. Does the teleporter work through glass? No. Is the glass just here to let me see things from the outside, I think? Ultimately, we ultimately want the platform to stop on this button to hold this open. And then maybe I can retract the laser at that point because I don't need it anymore, and then can switch back to using the hole and the teleporter. But otherwise, I think we're done with this until I get this doing what I want it to do. I'll just pick this up the moment the blue barrier goes away. We're probably done with that now. Now I can hop up here and then up here. And if I go through there, I win. And I can take the teleporter with me, so that shouldn't be very hard. The main thing is just I need that hole drilled. If the teleporter was here, then I could probably teleport through the gate with the whole thing. Ladder. I was like, how am I gonna get out? That was the contradiction, but they just gave me a ladder, so that's that's not so much of an issue. Which means a whole lot of things aren't so much of an issue, and we were already done with the puzzle, basically. Ta-da! Yeah, I don't know, little contradictions like that feel like that should be the thing that I'm struggling with.
The founder has a remarkable gift for designing these trials. But then, she did have to overcome Elohim, whose very purpose was to design trials.
Like them giving us a ladder to escape with almost feels like the easy mode version of the level, and the hard mode version is like, how do you solve this puzzle without that? And I think that stuff, I think little things like that that are just single use case things that make it so that there isn't the big contradiction scary thing are probably part of why this feels like it's a relatively easy puzzle game.
What is freedom? Is it merely to be ruled by those who speak one's language or share one's customs? No, that is merely a more convenient servitude. Is it to have no obligations, no loyalties? No, that is not to be free, but to be alone. What of freedom from hunger and thirst? Here we are closer to the truth. For freedom requires life. But one may have all the meat and all the wine in the world and still not be free. The most important freedom of all is the freedom to speak one's mind, to make one's thoughts public without fear, and so participate openly and boldly in democracy. It is the freedom of the dissenter and the gadfly, the rebel and the fool, that is the true measure of whether a city is free.
Vertical locomotion. Chugga, 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 chugga. Oh, there we go. Use fan to go to the moon. Ape strong diamond hands. Why does anyone listen to me speak? Oop. Bye. Well, that's going to be important. And then pressing this button does that. I guess you can press this button. How am I gonna get up there? I can't, like, put stuff up on shelves. Oh, there's still a beam. So I keep powering, it'll keep going. There we go. There it goes. Keep it pressed, teleport to it. Ta-da, ta-da. That wasn't so tough. It's a bonus level, but it's honestly one of the faster solutions I've had in this world that's been a little more puzzling. There's been a tad more strug than I'm used to. Well, that stuff is filled in. There's 3 question marks in this direction. So 1 bonus level, 1 might be one's probably the gates for the secrets that we can't do yet. Oh, and one's gonna be the bunker. Or not. Maybe. We don't need to regain access to travel at the moment. Oh, there's the bunker. Okay. Yep, there's a bunker. Anything left in the bottom of this room? This one doesn't seem like a teaser about future things. It seems to just be indicating that, hey, you know those like those nanomachine clouds you're seeing that go everywhere? They do actually follow something. Something's giving them a route, which isn't that big of a surprise because they are machines, presumably. Chernyshevsky, 21. On war. From Arkady Chernyshevsky, In Our Likeness, Essay on Humankind Reaching Adulthood. War is the crudest, most obscene human activity. It may justly be called an abomination, for it is the absolute negation of conscious human will. 5358. There is only a single cause of war, for all the endless deceptions that are foisted upon us, and that is the acquisition of resources. Varied ideologies are constructed to justify this crude behavior, this childish degeneration of thought and communication, but history reveals the ruthless, unflattering truth. We imagine crusaders as fanatics of a cause, willing to die for their religion. Yet the Fourth Crusade culminated not in the conquest of Jerusalem, but in the looting of Constantinople, setting the stage for the triumph of the very enemy the Crusaders claimed to oppose. Why? The answer, as with every war, is the same. It is popular amongst the ghouls of the establishment and their misanthropic friends in the intelligentsia to ascribe the persistence of war to human nature, but a careful observation of the facts reveals the opposite to be true. Individual human beings must be broken in order to submit to war, their minds distorted by ideology, and their bodies by poverty and ruthless training to make them compliant. Without force, the majority of human beings only seek to protect themselves and are traumatized by the act of killing. But if it is resources that are the core cause of war, then it is only the production and distribution of resources that an answer may be found. It is not enough to morally condemn war. We must work to prevent the material issues that endanger us all. I enjoy that point. That's the... like, obviously war is just a ridiculously bad thing. Like, it's a human failing, and we keep doing it, and it's so deeply frustrating, and everyone knows that, and none of us have the power to do anything about it, because power is out of our hands in general. And I just enjoyed the very clean observation of just, like, war isn't natural. The way that training works, the brainwashing and elements that go into things like in the military is like, you have to really condition people to do what you want them to do, because this is not, every time this happens, this isn't normal to anyone. From Guta to Athena. Dear Founder, I'm afraid that we're losing our humanity. We're angry at each other, always disagreeing about everything. Unable to forgive each other for being different. I don't know how much longer, and I don't know what could save us. Please help us, Founder. Please. November Project 11, there's more. Resume trials with new protocols. No energy output contained. No errors. Hyperbolic growth. Lossless conversion. Advanced synthesis. Advanced synthesis and lossless conversion sounds a lot like this was the big success. It makes me wonder if specifically Miranda was lost before the tower was built. The construct is that she was here during all these trials and all these other locations separately out here. But then the construct might have been built after she died. I don't know if we have explicit evidence she was in it ever. I'm not sure. But it might have been that Miranda was here during all these things. She was found... She was in the wreckage of one of these bunkers. And that might have been what Athena moved on to do afterwards. But I don't know if we still even know exactly what they were doing. From Byron. Damn it. I just wish I knew why you didn't tell me. Byron. That sounds like a recent message. Right? Like after they found out. But a message from Byron briefly made me worry. Made me like, he's here. He's alive. Message to Drennan. To Alexander Drennan at Ian. Who do you think you are, playing God like that, when Mother Nature has finally found a way to get rid of us? You come up with this harebrained scheme to keep our destruction of the planet going? Just try for 1 second to think about something other than your own arrogance and hubris, Alexandra. Try to imagine what you're really doing here. Without your robotic perversions, the future looks beautiful. No more humans murdering everything in their path. The skies clear up. The stars become visible again. The rivers stop being filthy. And after a few decades, we're full of fish again. Dolphins and whales roam, and the seas... Dolphins and whales roam the seas like their ancestors did. The cities turn into jungles. Bats nest in the skyscrapers where hedge fund managers used to ruin lives. The earth lives on as it was meant to, peacefully and quietly, until someday in the distant future, when it all ends, like it was meant to. Or we take your path. We continue our rampage, place ourselves above the animals. We think we know better than Mother Nature. We violate all boundaries. We ruin all purity. Perhaps we even defy death, just so we can keep spreading our filth. And we spread to other planets to do more of the same. In the end, what have we left behind but plastic and radiation? Think, Alexandra, isn't it better for beauty to return to the earth, for us to acknowledge that intelligence was a mistake, and to gracefully exit while we can? Stop this. Go spend time with your friends and loved ones before the end. Let it go. Let us all go. Let there be peace. I don't understand how someone could hate humanity so much. This person must have been full of sadness and frustration to write something so ugly. I've tried to understand it as well, but I still don't. There's a way to land on that idea, at least. It's the idea that we are harming the world with what we do, and that the world is so beautiful without it. Like, on its... It's easy to look at the world and nature and so on, and just think that that is so beautiful and so interesting and so worth preserving that maybe humanity just needs to end. That we're not worth it. because this, I mean, you go to like some beautiful national park and you just get all introspective about nature and so on. Like, it's not an insane thought, but it is incredibly self-destructive, and it's very difficult to actually commit to that idea. It's more of a, it's a thing that many people would think for a moment and maybe even believe, but following through to that extent is a lot. That said, in this situation, humanity was dying, and even the thing replacing them isn't necessarily us. Like, there's no continuity of consciousness here, if you want to talk about in terms of like the transporter problem and stuff like that. No humans survived the apocalypse. We just took the image of the idea of humanity and set a self-replicating computer to pursue that idea, and at the end of the day, the thing that ultimately was made as a result, there was no human to even check to see if it passed the Turing test. There was nobody to even see if the creatures that were created resembled humanity or were perfect copies or recreations in any real way. And all of us are kind of stuck with this endless existential worry that we might not even be human on any real level. And in many ways, it's a false premise, because it's impossible for these people to be human, because they're AI. Not even like direct emulations of a specific human or anything like that, but just like AI that was just told to pursue the idea of eventually perfectly iterating until you become a human. But when that success happens, there will be no humans to reference to check. Like, it's kind of a guesswork. So in that outcome, there's the question of whether or not it's worth it to create something that will then maybe re-industrialize the world in the image of mankind, and maybe even be worse, and maybe take things further when we ourselves are dying. So in some ways, it's almost less self-hatred than it is to say it's one that, because like when this hypothetical is proposed, it's often in the context of humanity should end because of what we're doing. But in this case, humanity was already ending on its own. That was inevitable and not up for debate and not stoppable. The human beings were going to all die. So this person was arguing against the idea of creating a self-replicating AI robot force that carries on in mankind's image, and whether or not that was worth it. So it's not the worst thing ever. It's just a struggle for them, because they all very much want to believe that they're human, which I will point out is different from pointing out whether or not they're people or conscious or individuals and so on. They could be fully sentient and real living creatures despite being simulated robots or whatever. Like, if you're talking about whether or not they pass that threshold or not, that can be true without conceding that they're necessarily humans specifically. It's just it's a little more complicated than they propose it to be, I think. But they want to think of themselves as being human, so it gets squished a little bit more. Against the Athenians and Socrates alike, from the complete works of Straton on Strategia. In killing a philosopher for asking questions they did not like, the Athenians committed themselves to a tragedy with an ironic ending. Some will say his true crime was his friendship with Alcibiades, maybe, the shameless deceiver of idiots and buffoons, and the insipid brute Critias, that he was executed as an enemy of democracy. That he was the latter can hardly be denied, for Socrates asked not too many questions, but too few, or he would have not survived the role of the 30 tyrants. Yet, in the end, he got what he asked for, a tyrannical decision made by would-be wise men against the spirit of freedom, which he obeyed like a knave. And the Athenians, while fulfilling his wishes, strangled the roots of democracy while seeking to preserve it. Ouch! No wonder Straton wasn't popular. People who speak the truth at all times rarely are. Haha, double meaning there a little bit. Not people who speak the truth at all times as in any era, but people who speak the truth at all times as in people who never stop speaking the truth. Which itself can be an own kind of thing. Like, no one's always correct all the time, but there are people who just refuse to filter themselves, which is a little different. And if you just never, ever, ever shut the fuck up, and you say every vicious thought that comes to mind, yeah, you're not gonna be very popular. And you're gonna think you're a truth teller, and that kind of person's frustrating in their own way. From Thecla, 4. Beloved Founder, know that I do not believe any of the lies the expedition is spreading about you. Blah is right. This Prometheus illusion is just a test. We will resist temptation as you once did. We will not disappoint. Praise your name, Thecla. Athena history. The history of Athena was first published as Athena, a novel, and retained the title for its first 3 printings, now highly sought after. After a lull in popularity, it was reprinted as Athena Reborn, a novel. This edition retained the same text but included some of the author's poetry. The next edition, however, published long after the author's death under the rather embarrassing title Athena's Truth, included severe cuts and drastic changes to the text in the interest of updating it for modern audiences. This particularly affected the last chapter, Anthropogeny, which the editors accused of scientism and human supremacy. Science wunderkind Alexander Drennan was one of the few to come to the novel's defense, writing in a long essay that the novel's clear-eyed belief in the value of Athena's journey toward humanity had been essential for shaping her own views, encouraging her to pursue science as a vocation rather than a career, and that changing the text constituted an attack on the author's unique artistic and philosophical vision. Alex, who hurt you, Lamau? One of the editors commented on a popular social media platform. Nadia Sarabhai of the Institute of Applied Pneumatics also got involved in the discussion, backing Drennan, resulting in a long but unsuccessful campaign to oust Sarabhai from her position as head researcher. In the current context of... There's a bunch of corruption here. In the current context of ecological catastrophe, as evidenced by the recent extinction of the orangutan, clumsy editing aside, do the critics of the novel perhaps have a point after all? Is a philosophy that places humans above nature and sees science and technology as the only valid tools the cause of all of our troubles? What about other ways of knowing? Other ways of living? That is a worthwhile thing to consider. There's a few things to break down here. First of all, who hurt you, Lamau? This is social media. This is Twitter. This is how people talk on Twitter. This is people on Twitter essentially canceling Drennan and Sarabhai over this book because they see it as decrepit and old and the cause of all the current problems. And like, they're not wrong to see the idea that like, hey, the world is ending and we caused this, and think that maybe you should like in real life we are on a trajectory to make the planet uninhabitable, and we're doing that through the way that we organize our society. So it's not wrong to blame that idea, but I think it's dumb to want to edit a book about Athena. Like, it ultimately has a particular form. It was written by an author, and it's like, I can't help but think that it's just strange to, I was gonna say that since it's the history, it's a thing made by an author, that it's weird to re-edit it because you don't like the tone a chunk of it has or something, given that it's their work. But I guess it is supposed to be a historical piece. So if it is meant to be a history textbook, then it probably could be revised. So it's not the worst idea thing there anyway. I don't know. I kind of had a moving target with my opinion there. So the way I was struggling I was structuring my thought kind of fell apart there. I was building towards a different conclusion. But it is just funny to hear annoying Twitter speak be handled here. But as far as this ending part about like other ways of knowing, other ways of living, this is an interesting thing that's you can bring up in terms of like obviously real life, but I mean like it comes up in the discussion of like I think it was I think Conquest of Dread did a video about, I think, 4X games like Civilization and whatnot, and how like a lot of these games inherently they inherently emphasize colonialism and the exploitation of people or resources and expansion as success states and goals and progress, always advancing, always growing. And there is definitely a gap there that's left there, like a genre where like you can decolonialize that kind of genre by instead having a game that's about maintaining balance with nature and living within your means and having a society that is actually conscious of its impact on the world around it. And there is like a stasis of sorts there potentially where you could develop your culture, but you wouldn't be developing necessarily your technology or advancing and expanding and growing necessarily, or growing in population or technology. You know, I'm looping a little bit there, but like that kind of society, if we are such intelligent creatures, should be an option on some level, or a goal, or a thing to be aspiring to, and not just a thing that's dismissed inherently. There's definitely a virtue in the idea of limiting yourself, like realizing that like, okay, every species on the planet inherently grows and expands as aggressively as possible, and generally speaking, most species, as far as I'm aware of, are not smart enough to self-moderate. So if they successfully dominate an ecosystem, they will drive other things into extinction. And it's one thing to drive your competition into an extinction, but it's another thing when you're driving your food source into extinction. There are species that will take over an area and then make the area unlivable for themselves and then die out, or they'll overbreed and then die when there's not enough of a food source for their own population. And that's the way that nature forces a self-moderation much more quickly on dumber species, is that they don't get the opportunity to end the world because they end themselves just by eating themselves out of food and so on. But like that does speak to a universal problem amongst living creatures, on at least in whatever my dumb understanding of things is, because I'm probably wrong about stuff too. But it's like a universal problem where things will do that. They will always expand and exploit, and they will do so either while fighting constantly for survival and doing everything they can to withstand, or if they do take over, they will do so to such an extent that they exterminate themselves or have massive consequences and have to like shrink and bounce back and shrink and bounce back because they keep becoming a problem for themselves, their own success. And then we since we're past that and we don't, we have agriculture and technology and so on, we can go beyond that. But that means that we just go even further and we spread across the entire world and potentially across the stars, and we exploit and we potentially ruin the worlds that we gain. If you don't consciously limit yourselves, then you're just more dangerous from that perspective. Like, you are so intelligent that you can do all these things, but not so intelligent that you can do them responsibly. And so you might be human beings that create spaceships, but still end up consuming and expanding in a way comparable to locusts until you self-destruct, like insects do. It's interesting to see the comparisons where societies still resemble much lower beings by comparison, and how we struggle to avoid that. Okay, so there was no, like, thingy. Yeah, I don't think there was, like, an upload. That was, like, 3 different terminals, and I don't think any of them were that. Gave me some fun stuff to talk about. And we can debate about and whatnot. I don't always have the patience for debating about them, but you can think about them, and you can yell at each other. Ooh. Some of these are me just spouting off ideas I already have, but some of them are complicated to get through in real time because it's me processing an idea and kind of like formulating the concepts on the fly. Like, I don't think I've ever drawn the parallel necessarily between like between humanity and beasts in that specific way. By which I mean like the idea that like there are definitely creatures that will just kind of eat themselves into extinction, and humanity being smarter didn't make them immune to that. It just made them do it differently. Against decay. From selected archive documents A through C. We live in a decaying system, which in turn produces ideologies of decay to justify its existence. No matter what cultural signifiers they get packaged with, these ideologies come down to the same material result: a future in which for the average person there is less of everything. To paraphrase Mark Fisher, we find it easier to imagine the decline of civilization than to imagine a civilization worth living in. Those of us who still believe that humanity can thrive, that there is a path forward other than willful or accidental decay, are out of sync with the system. No matter how we phrase our arguments, they will be perceived in terms of whatever cultural signifiers the listener opposes. This is deeply frustrating, depressing, even infuriating situation. What can we do except patiently explain and hope conditions change? In other words, what can we do except have faith? This was written only a few months before the discovery of the virus. There was no time for conditions to change. Founding 11. Hypatia's Journals, Day 882. It's been a while since I last wrote an entry in my journal. Much has changed in New Jerusalem. We've put up a good chunk of the planned living quarters, and the old storage facility has been converted into a movie theater, of all things. So we still argue a lot, but now it's mostly about which film we'll be watching next. Other construction efforts are going well too, although we've begun to run out of readily accessible resources. Our scavenging expeditions are ranging further and further afield with each passing month, and the sites that have reported on... Music just kind of stopped. That was weird. And the sites they've reported on sound truly marvelous. One day I must go see for myself. It's a good thing in that regard that we're that wheel getting two new... That's a typo. It's a robot typo. It's a good thing in that regard that we're getting 2 new citizens soon, because everyone is as busy as ever. More hands to help us build our future. I can't wait to meet them. Why'd the music like cut out so abruptly? Like it was just noticeably, there was like a loud piano and then it cut to 0 basically. It was just it was very startling.
How is this supposed to work? The system is meant to last centuries. Centuries! And yeah, Chernyshevsky's plan, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But I'm working with hardware that was deliberately designed to fail. Planned obsolescence, baby. Selling broken garbage just to make another buck. A buck you can't even spend because in a few more weeks, we'll be extinct. Was it worth it? That's the part that Alexandra doesn't see. The greed, the stupidity, the selfishness, the way that we created this whole situation in the first place. She wants you to be like us, but if you ask me, there's a whole lot of human history and behavior you can just throw away, chuck it in the trash, right? You have a chance at a fresh start. Make the best of it.
That's sad. That's usually what he's dealing with. He has to deal with the contradictions and all this. But yeah, the act of developing the technology he's supposed to work on is inherently putting him face to face with the very processes through which the world is being brought to an end. This massive exponential sprawl of technological devices that eat at the world and aren't designed to continue existing. Will it work just long enough to get past the door? Yep. Checkpoint! It's like we beat that level, basically. Okay. This is a strange little level. Alright, well I can get you at least. So now the goal is to get you past that barrier. Which shouldn't be hard. Come here. Help. Uh-oh. Okay, you come back in here. I see what's going on. I couldn't tell what was going wrong because I couldn't tell why it was stuck. That was confusing. There we go. Not necessarily ideal, but yeah. Okay, well, I gets us past that at least. Yeah, I shouldn't be able to put these anywhere. Yeah, they both things block it. Maybe I did just lose that one? I can try to push it all along a bit, but probably the best I'm going to do is be able to step here. That'll get it fairly far along. And ultimately my goal is just to get it out here and step on it. So I need to be able to open that door while it's being pushed forward at the same time. Bye. That opens the door. It probably has to be high up. Yeah. Oopsie. This creates some problems for me. Because I need to be able to get back out of here. I may have made a mistake at some point. Yeah, there's a lot of things to make sure to block our progress around here. Are these two buttons combined? Oh right, this one's always like this because it's physically there. But I can't get out, right? Can't get this out. So getting this trapped might have been a mistake. But yeah, like I need something to push this forward while it's keeping the door open. Or we're in trouble, basically. You can't see that from there, but... Oop. I don't think it's unsalvageable yet. Yeah. So I connected it to the top, to the laser, which is connecting there, and back down to the platform. Turn the corner. Yes. Get out of here. Weird tower, bro. Here we go. Got a bit into the discussions this time around. Okay, so we have every single thing solved in this area, except that one weird series of dots. So next up, before we're ready to leave, I need to figure out what the hell that means. Like, what is the 8 dots where 4 of them are lit and 4 of them aren't? Yep, because everything else is solved, except for the gates, the trombones, and the dots. So I'll let you know when I figure that, when I am making progress on that one next time. For now, it's bedtime.